you're in London, right?
Yeah.
Are there like crazy like celebrations because of the election results and everything, or
Well, I thought there was because there's been fireworks on since Thursday and they've continued today, but then I just got told it's Guy Fawkes weekend. So
what's that?
so Guy Fawkes is the celebration of some guy who tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament and fucked it up and got caught and was hung, I think, was executed at least.
Oh, shit.
And now they have this weird, I don't know if they're flaunting it in his face, in this guy's dead memories face. They everybody goes out and gets fireworks and does
When did it
fireworks for
happen?
Guy
Like when
Fawkes.
was this?
I don't know. It's historical, dude. It's
Oh, okay. This is like back in the day,
this is
from back
back
in
in
the
the
day.
day. This
Oh,
is like somebody had to try hard to get this TNT and
okay.
blow this shit up, and
Yeah, not
he
like
was just
now where you can just Google everything, you know?
you could just
You can
fucking
you can
find out how
look
to
up.
make a napalm bomb from
Yeah, it's easy now. The ter
kitchen.
the terrorists these days have it so easy compared to back in the day, you know? When you really had to like look up how to make a bomb. You have to study chemistry to know how to build a bomb, you know?
Mm.
You'd have to read multiple books that are boring. There's no like YouTube how-to videos.
So would you have been like more inclined to trust the cause of a terrorist back then? Because that was like a well-read man, you know? That was
He had
he,
conviction at least. Like he really believed. Like, yeah.
he was a doer.
He was a yeah, he's a doer.
That guy, if he doesn't have a regular job, there's a bad reason for it, you know? Like
Yeah.
he's the guy that gets stuff done.
He gets stuff done. He believes in what in it with true belief. He believes in what his cause is, and then
Yeah.
he'll read a book, and then he'll have to study chemistry. He'll have to learn how to read first, because back in the day, not everyone knew how to read. So you'd have to read
Exactly.
well. You'd have to look up the stuff on how to make a bomb on in the chemistry books, and then you'd have to build it. You have to acquire the materials. There's no
You'd have
Amazon Prime.
yeah, you'd have to do a hustle to to afford the material.
I think I think we have to respect historical terrorists more. I
Yeah,
feel
man. They're
like
not just some guy who's insecure about his repressed homosexuality and can claim ISIS and
ah.
look better for it. I don't, that might have been too much too quick. But you know what I mean? You're not just some guy who's like self-esteem issues and like, oh, if somebody knows my name, I'll be on the news and on Facebook
Yeah, yeah.
in my in the death that I succumbed to in my cause. This
Imagine
might
you're
have been
willing to
this might
die for. Sorry, what'd you
yeah.
say?
This might have been a guy. Guy Fawkes might have been a guy with real valid opinions on things who just got pissed off he wasn't heard. You know,
Isn't that
he's
how everyone feels right now? Like with social media, like, oh, what I have to say is important and everyone needs to hear this because everyone's an idiot.
yeah. I feel like too many people need to know that at least some of what they say is important nowadays. And more than like they need to have a conversation, they just need to know that some of what they have to say is important, or that people will applaud that they tried speaking.
Yeah.
It's like I need at least somebody to applaud that I tried speaking there because it was hard and I was nervous.
Yeah.
I got a friend, my cousin's fiance. She's telling me about her cousin, talking about her cousin, trying to make her sound good and saying how like I can't remember what we were talking about, but she's like, yeah, yeah, and, you know, like I have this cousin who, you know, she talks like she's talking to you, and she talks loads, but and then she asks you questions, and then doesn't give you enough time to answer them. She just keeps talking. And I told her, I think that's the kind of person who like they're so nervous they need to at least feel rewarded by the fact that they made the effort to talk. It's like I said to her, like, you know, like that person so just wants to be approved for the fact they're talking that they don't really grasp the rest of it. They just need to know that, look, I got the talking bit down, so that's good, right? And it's like a baby, like when you're teaching a toddler ABCs, and like you really want, it's really important to you for some reason. This kid gets his ABCs from A to Z
Yeah.
in the right order, but they don't know why. But they're just really glad when they get it, like A, B, C, D. That's what this bitch is doing when she's talking. She's just A, B, C, D. Wait. E, F, G, H, I. Okay, you
It's like,
talking about I, J,
yeah,
K, L, M, N. It's like what she really wants to be doing is singing.
yeah.
She hasn't
I do that.
grasped
I
the
feel like I
nuance.
do that all the time. I feel like I do whenever I'm in a conversation, that when I'm feeling anxious, that's when I realize like it's like an anxiety thing. When I feel anxious and I'm talking to this person, like if it's in a date scenario or not even a date scenario, like a party scenario where like someone has like an interesting job and all of a sudden I find this need to impress them with the knowledge that I know of their job and how it can relate to the world, you know instead of like asking, like I'll ask them a question about the job and then I'll be like, oh, but didn't you also do this, like, oh, but isn't it also related to this? Like I just want to impress them with how much I know
Is
instead
it that you
of.
want to impress them, or like you found out some superfluous stuff about something that you're not related to, and that you finally meet someone in the job, and so you're like, oh, is it like that? Like, is it not a bit of that? Like, is it
I
like
I don't know. Like yesterday, I went on a park date with this girl who's a professor. I seem to be going out with. I know the going out with an academic in 2020 for a person like me is completely wrong because they're so politically correct and they can't say anything. But then
uh,
I'm attracted. I feel like, or there's a mutual attraction between like I like smart women who are also pretty, and I feel like they see me as this like artistic guy because I'm an actor, but also non-threatening because I have a non-threatening face, I think.
so
Um,
they're into non-threatening,
so
the
I feel like,
academic?
yeah, they probably like this guy's probably easier to get along with, and then that kind of stuff. And also like I feel like, oh, he's smart enough. He's smart enough. He's not a complete dummy.
Mm.
So I feel so anyway. That's what I feel like I was doing. I wanted to be like, oh, academia. So like, isn't it hard to fucking, be an academic now because everyone's so politically correct and you're in this like, department that's so has to do with people and how people behave and she's doing like organizational behavior, so how people behave essentially, and she's trying to
Oh,
figure out like why people uh, be a vote in certain ways and how people get the more yeah, she was talking about how people get stuck to their guns when you make any issue like a moral issue, like say like
okay.
abortion, like if you take abortion, like whether you're pro or anti-abortion, you tend to like stick to your guns more and not look at the facts more,
Mm.
because you've already identified with one side of the argument,
So a good
um,
argument is one that kind of just validates
what you already
would
believe.
you. Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
instead of like looking at it from like a balanced perspective. So yeah, so when she was talking about all, I wanted to be like, isn't it hard, so she was herself saying like, yeah, like there's like people who believe who are totally liberal and you cannot speak any sort of like anything you believe that's not like liberal is really controversial. So when she has these like department meetings with other professors from the finance department, who teach like economics and finance, they don't care. They are, some of them do say things that are like quote unquote not politically correct, and they're not as liberal as their like social sciences professors, but they're all in the
Yeah.
same department. It was kind of interesting. But anyway, my point was like I wanted to I found myself trying to like, I was scared to impress her too because I was like, I don't know what she believes because like I barely, this is the second time, the first time I'm meeting her face to face. It's the second time we've interacted. Um, but it seemed like she was funny. She was not as liberal as I thought she was going to be, because she said that how she got, once she got this professorship job, she got paid a lot more, from like 0 to 6 figures, and all of a sudden her paycheck is like the Canadian government is taking like half of her money, and she's like, what?
Uh,
Well, and then that's when she realized like, and then I was like, now you can see like how people are people can be socially liberal and fiscally conservative. She was like, immediately I saw that when my paycheck was reflecting like the government taking half of my money. All of a sudden, from like being a diehard liberal, I became like, okay, I get why conservatives exist now. I see what it is. I see what it is.
it's like a
But
bracket
but
where when you made it.
yeah, yeah. It's like That's when people get conservative. It's like when the government starts taking their money. You can see it very clearly. Uh, I haven't reached that phase yet. But anyway, what you were saying of like trying to impress people with just like verbal diarrhea, man, I do that all the time. And I catch myself doing that, and I'm like, fucking shut the fuck up. Why are you talking right now? Let them talk. Instead of like listening to what they're saying and going with the flow of the conversation, uh, I want to impress them. But you know what? When I do that, when I realize that the conversation is not interesting enough for me.
Well, that's what I was like. Yeah, that's a problem, right? When you're a curious person and you're seeing somebody like in the kiddies pool of like trying to talk about a thing, it's like, oh yeah, I watched, and you're like, what did you watch? What the mass produced? Like, did you read a book on it?
Yeah.
And then if you mention that you've read a book on it, all of a sudden they're like, ah, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like I know you as a pretty good judge of like interesting conversation, and you try to pry and get the juice out of things. And I know you've gone through your good phases of listening and trying to get the best out of conversation with listening. I feel like that's what I did for like half my life as well. Is for a long time I just knew how much I didn't have an opinion on things. So I guess we have the advantage of being like on the cusp of having a part of our life being pre-social media and pre-cell phones and all this stuff. So being able to Google something wherever you are. So still having a part of your life where you
Barely.
were someone.
Barely, yeah. But we got to see life without it, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
I had a third world on my side, so we had like
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, dial-up was an obstacle and shit like this.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah,
Dial
so I
up,
feel like
sure.
took a bit longer in Antigua, and so I just knew like whenever someone talked about something I had no fucking clue, I just shut the hell up and I listened, and I feel like nowadays everything's an entertainment competition. Like even if you're just chilling with friends, you gotta massage people's egos for if they try to talk about something. And I know a
Ugh.
lot about it. I've like
Yeah,
been connecting dots in my head about it for a
yeah.
long time, and it keeps me up at night and all this shit. My thing is like sometimes it keeps me up at night. Like, have you suffered that much for this, or is this just because you listened to a BBC podcast yesterday, so you want to have something to say because
Yeah.
you put in time to inform yourself for once instead of looking at cat videos, and it needs to be as important as when you spend time looking at cat videos or as rewarding. So I better listen now, and I think when you shut up for long enough and listen for long enough, you have a sense of when a person is just minimal knowledge and wanting maximum flattery.
Yeah.
I think
Flattery, that's
I think you're doing
that's
them
the
a
thing.
favor. You're doing
But
them a
people,
favor by making them earn their moment of mic time.
my time. But that is the thing. I think it's the conversations that I think I seem to have in like any party or social setting, is, oh, I'm gonna say my thing and I'm gonna wait for them to stop talking so I can say my other thing.
Mm,
I think that everyone goes through that. It's like I want to. I feel like I'm in that situation. I can notice it when people do it. It's like, oh, they're not even listening. They're just waiting for me to stop talking so they can say their thing, and then um, and then
that's a good point.
yeah,
Could it not be a sign of that you're more intently listening, that you want to kind of interrupt at a moment about something the other person said? Couldn't that be like a sign that you're listening? And then they can go, hold on, I wasn't finished. I was gonna get to that, and you can go, oh, okay, but at least they know you're listening.
yeah. Yeah, at least they know you're listening. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, interruption is good. I like that. I like when people are, well, obviously I like it because then they're paying attention to what I'm saying. So but then I have this need to command their attention.
Uh,
I think that has to do with like how I grew up because I don't think, your emotions are not validated in any way, the way I grew up anyway. So
like
when
no matter what you do, your emotions
oh
aren't
no, you're
valid.
just a child. Your emotions are not valid. It's you're a shut up. Like so you
And
you
that's
know
made really obvious to you from like a young age, the way you were brought up.
I knew that. Well, there was some. Well, I read a book on it. Yeah, if you want to be like, I read this emotion. It's called Running on Empty. I just recently read it, and it's about all about emotional neglect. So it's not. So it's about parenting. It's not about those parents who like abused you or emotionally abused you. That's
Yeah.
different. Neglect is just like not acknowledging what you're going through as a child and like completely dismissing any um, any feelings that you would have had, any sort of
Okay.
reactions that you would have had.
Okay.
But in the other, but but like they show you love, and so your parent might not like listen to what you're going through, or not even acknowledge it because it's
Okay.
probably too complicated. But they'll probably show you love in some other way, where like they always take care of your food and your clothing necessities, and like make sure you go to a good school and shit like that. Like that stuff is important to them. So it's not like they're completely neglecting you or abusing you. It's not even abuse. It's neglect, because they
Well, I,
themselves.
I have a question about that because I don't know. I have this memory of having read or heard or been taught somewhere that neglect can almost be more perturbing than many forms of abuse. And you've read this book, and does it mention anything like that, or is this something that like I'll never find out where I heard it and how accurate my memory is about this?
It fucks you up in different ways depending on how you are, because it's depending on the person that you already are, and other factors too. Some It makes some people super ambitious because they've been neglected, so like
Yeah.
they always have this need for approval, or this need to prove themselves, or like they found like, oh, the most like satisfaction or quote unquote happiness I get is when I accomplish something, and then I can tell this parent that I did it, and then they give me some sort of positive reaction that I like. So it helps some people achieve goals, but then at the same time, those are the same people who feel this like emptiness once they grow up, and they're in their 40s, and they're really accomplished in their career or whatever, but they just can't seem to feel whole, which is this feeling of like, I don't. It's different for different people, but they feel like something's missing, because again, their emotions were never like regulated, or like or because they had a parent who would never react in any way, so they never knew how to positively or negatively react themselves in situations. Like I find that
Yeah.
myself, like my dad, when report card day would come along, and then you'd show your dad your report card, he would never react to the positive or good things, or even to the negative
Oh.
things after a
Oh,
while. So
really?
it's like,
Okay.
so but I'd have all this
Fuck.
anticipation when I'm like terrified, like, oh, what's he going to think of my 85 in like math, when I should be getting like a 95 is what his expectations are. But when
Was
he would
that
see
his
the 85,
expectation?
like he would not react. But then when I would get the good shit too, the 95, he would never react either, that the way that I wanted him to react.
Maybe
Or like
neither
he'd
of
be like,
those are
oh,
too
good
low,
job, or say something.
realistically.
So,
Maybe he's setting his bar high and settling for less, and maybe you didn't know that like 85 was actually still like worthy of his approval.
but yeah, but I would never know either way. So it's like, what do I have to think? So it's so nerve wracking. And then I would
Yeah.
like beat myself up, like, oh fuck, should I do better? What should I do? And then eventually, I just come to the fact that like, man, I think of how he grew up, and his upbringing. He never had that either, so he doesn't know how to show it either. So the only time he would ever show any emotion was anger. So
Oh.
then I see like, oh, okay, it's anger, that he's sensitive to anger, and he would show that.
So it's only if the emotion was trying enough that he would show a response to it. So it had to be worthy of anger.
It had to be worthy of anger or sarcasm. Like, like I remember this one time I was in grade 12. This is when like you getting to university is important and all that. So I remember it was like a Friday, and I think I went to watch a movie with my friends after school, Spider-Man or something, and then I come back, and then I'm watching The Simpsons on TV, and then he comes back from work, and he's like, "What'd you do today?" I was like, "Oh, I went to a movie," and it's like, "And then you're watching TV now? So why?" Like, you're watching TV. Oh, good, good. You watch TV after watching a movie. You're not
How
studying.
old
Good.
were you?
This is good. And after a while, you go to university. And then you'll be out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, I guess that'll. And but now,
So,
okay,
so he was
this is what
like
you're doing,
patting
and
you
it's
on the
like
back
sarcasm. Yeah,
for
it's
being
like,
slightly invisible because of screens, and then one day you'll be out the house and he won't see you then.
yeah, it was like a weird thing he said. It was like out of sight, out of mind, I guess. And then he just walked into the bathroom, and I was like,
Oh, jeez,
what? I was like devastated. I was like, what
he's
the
like monologuing to you.
Yeah.
He's like sharing his internal monologue, like of how he's gonna deal with this.
Man, I think it's common for a lot of like South Asian families. I think in other like Greek families, a lot of like families where it's like communal, the individual versus the communal communities. Like the East has more of that, and I feel like yeah, your emotions are not important because you as a person really are not important. It's all about the group
Ah,
and
but the
how you're making the group. So how what you're doing for your family, your community. Are you making us look bad? Are you making us look good? That's more important than your dumb fucking emotions. So when you grow up, you have like no you have no self-esteem and yourself and then that's why I used to see these like white kids and how they were so like they would like acknowledge and validate their emotions and they don't feel stupid when they do it, whereas for me it's like it's
would you think
gross.
they were like pussies? Would you think these white guys
Initially I was,
are puss
but
white
then I
guys?
was like, they're actually brave for doing that. Like they're so brave, and then they can
Well,
work
are
out
they
their.
brave if it's the norm?
Well,
Maybe
I
like
thought
they
they
would be
were
brave
brave.
by like
I guess depending on how they
manning up
did
a
it.
bit and realizing how uncontributing, unimportant to the group they are.
Uh, I think they are brave. I thought they were brave because at least they worked out their emotions in the moment,
Yeah.
and so they didn't like hold on to it and then just sort of like bury it and then just like not have a reaction to it and then it manifests itself in other ways. I think it was helpful, but then there is a tipping point when like right now I feel like a lot of people need their emotions validated all the time, and because their parents didn't weren't like more how would you say didn't reprimand them enough. So now it feels like, oh my God, it feels like my feelings are more important, and I
Well,
feel like that's weak. So it's like a balance, it's a balance.
yeah, because I feel like there's some kind of strength. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who's a therapist, and I don't know. I was trying to explain my understanding of narcissism, and I was relating it back to childhood,
Yeah.
and so from what I understand is in childhood we're like hyper narcissistic, but we need to survive the realization when you come out of the womb of how actually small and helpless you are. So the kid has like a really heightened sense of like everything's an extension of it. Like, oh look, it's okay that I don't know how to move around and stuff because I cry and someone comes and tries to figure it out. I guess that thing is like a limb of mine. You
Mm.
know, like your parents are like a limb of yours. And I feel like existential angst to me is like then like is more and more accepting information that makes you realize how little control you have over things, and like moving away from narcissism is like acknowledging other people as independent,
Yeah.
autonomous things, right? And she was saying that no, but in those early stages you have to like ego bomb the child and like make it feel kind of rewarded for everything it does, so like those early stages it has enough self-esteem to slowly come off that as it gets older and learns more, and it's appropriate to like its level of which you can challenge it, you know. So like he draws you a squiggle and you got to take the squiggle and go, oh my god, this is a beautiful, you did this, I'm gonna put it on the fridge.
Right, right,
And
right.
but you're saying your parents are kind of like, you're a fucking child, like what are you gonna feel that's important?
Yeah, well,
And I wonder what's a longer run kind of like, what makes a long run wiser human in that case when you've given like from childhood the conundrum of being like, I'll feed you, I'll take care of you, I love you, but I'm not gonna blow smoke up your ass about whether
yeah,
you're important or not in the grand
or
scheme of things.
it makes you, man, like it's yeah, you don't feel like your needs are important. You don't even know what needs are. Like, what are my needs? I don't even know what that like. It makes you feel like an undercooked cookie. You've been baked in other ways, but there's like not cooked at all. And so when you get into relationships, I would feel like adult relationships, you would have to the way my culture solves it is by having an arranged marriage where you're marrying another person who's been emotionally neglected, but then you know how a marriage works in that arranged way because you've seen the modeling around you in your parents and in like the and like the parent in your culture and the cultural events, so you know how to operate, and then that's how you sort of you
What's going
know
on?
oh you stopped. recording. Like I can't see you. Oh, I can't see you. Oh, now I can see you. Okay. Is my internet okay? I wonder. Yeah, my internet's fine. Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, now you're moving. Say something. Can't hear you. Now your mouth is just stuck.
You were in like slow motion for ages.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You too.
Like,
You were like you were
uh,
like this for like the longest time. And now your video is like not HD anymore. It's okay, now it's come back.
yeah, you
Oh,
too. Oh, Jesus.
oh, and now the video is
I was
back.
doing
Okay.
all kinds of faces. I was like, you sounded like you were auto-tuned. So I was
Yeah.
trying to like face dance, like face gesture dance to your.
Yeah. Really? That's how it
And
sounded? That's hilarious.
yeah,
Oh man.
like a
But
robot, you know.
um but what was I saying? Yeah. You know, it makes you don't if you don't know how to react to your emotions and you get overwhelmed in that like fight or flight way, you can only react by crying and by being angry. Those are the two reactions I find, at least in like the way I was brought up. It's like, oh, I can either be angry or I guess I'll cry. But uh, there's way there's like all these emotions in the middle where you can react in a much more composed and calm way. You can be like, all right, this is just, I'm feeling angry right now, but I'm not gonna react or respond to this like this. And I feel like if you are not taught that, if you don't know your emotions well enough, then you're as an adult, you'll always either be terrified or you'll always be angry, and it's not a good way. You're not a full person then. You're not, and so that's where I think that emotional neglect, that's the toll it takes. But it could make
Mm.
you super ambitious and it could make you, very empathetic towards others. Yeah, sometimes like you
Okay.
are your need you it's never your needs aren't important, but you are able to sort of make other people's needs very important. You're always there for them.
Ah.
So maybe like a job where like you're like a therapist or something like that. Like my mom, I can see that in my mother itself. Like her emotions or needs are not important, but she's very good at like empathizing with others and their emotions.
So this comes back to the thing that where I remember like the article or whatever was that I feel like I learned that dismissive behavior can be more perturbing than certain forms of like physical abuse as a kid. So there's like I remember there being like three coping strategies. So it's like A, you show your anger not being seen, which at least gets you into trouble a lot of the time. So
Right.
that's better than not being seen.
Yeah.
B, you learn to you learn to meet the needs of other people to get
Right.
to get the attention. So
Yeah.
you learn to compensate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And C is you just become kind of detached and introvert, I guess.
Huh. Yeah.
So I guess is that what did it teach you? Did it teach you to scope out, look for the threads to like
What,
how
the
do I get
book?
in?
The book?
No,
Oh.
being your upbringing, I guess.
Well, I don't know. Well, it's taught me a bunch of like I observed how well
Or is it a thing that you noticed it in your mom when you were talking about it
I
makes you
noticed it in
more
both my
empathetic?
parents. I feel like they were both they're definitely probably emotionally neglected for sure.
Your mom
Um,
became the empath.
yeah, yeah, but never to like our family. It's always to like to other members. Like you never saw it.
Okay.
Like I remember this one time I was growing up in India, and so we had this like maid, uh, who would come and clean the house. That's what it is in India because the labor is so cheap, and there's a whole class of people who like come and clean your house. You never have to do anything. You don't have to cook. You don't have to clean. You don't have to wash your own clothes. There's this person, lady, who comes and cleans your house. So she had a kid, and that kid had some school assignment where they had to draw pictures on like a poster board. And so that servant, maid lady, she comes to me and she's like, hey, could you draw these pictures on this like poster board? And I was like 11 years old, and these like pictures were like super complicated, and I was like, oh man, I don't know how to draw these pictures because I'm not an artist. I never like grew up drawing. Wait, you stopped again. Can you hear me? Or damn, damn it, you're stuck. Hello, mic check. One, two, three. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Oh, there you are.
Hey, oh, you're
Okay.
back.
You're back. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I stopped there for a bit. It was interesting. Anyway, so what I was, yeah, I was saying, yeah, the story, right? So, I was 11 years old. This maid lady, servant lady, who would come and clean the house. We called them maid servants. She'd come clean the house. She'd cook the food, and then she'd wash the clothes. That was her job. And she had her little quarters by our house. And everyone had this. Uh, any middle class person does. And so she had a kid who had a school assignment where she had to draw like these complicated pictures on the poster board, and so she asked me to do it for her. And I remember like I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like 11 years old. These are like too complicated. I'm not like an artist person to draw these things. So I was like, oh no, I'm sorry, I can't. And then and then somehow my mother found out, and my mother started yelling at me. It was like, you don't. Why didn't you help her? Just
Mm,
because she just assumed, my mother automatically just assumed that I didn't want to help her because she was like a
it was
servant lady that
beneath.
was beyond
Yeah.
my help. Like, I was being arrogant. I was like, no, I don't want to help you. She like
Yeah.
automatically, without even asking me, without, saying that, hey, why did you do that? She automatically just assumed. She went straight to anger because of what she thought. And then I was just like, what the fuck just happened? And I
Oh
could,
shit.
and it's like, we're not taught to speak back. I don't even know how to talk back. Now I do because now, but I can see that whenever someone's speaking to me in that tone, or even my mother or parents are, I can tell them how I feel. But that's because I've learned it. I've made a conscious effort to learn it, and be different from like other kids who still can't do it. Other, you know, my people my age still have no, they don't know how to talk back to their parents because it would, because when they did, they would probably get hit, and they knew that, or they would get even more shit on, or they knew that, oh, that's like a bad thing to do. So I remember just her yelling at me for this, and then just walking out of the room, and I was just like, what the fuck just happened? And I keep thinking of these, like things like these just keep happening, or it just kept happening when I was a kid. And you just don't know how to react to your emotion. You have these emotions, and you just like push it down. And then the way my family did it was like, oh, after a while, everything just, there was no apology or sorry or anything. You just sort of move on. Okay, it's over. And then now it's like, oh, now everything's back to normal. So
Mm.
that really fucking affects you.
Yeah, it kind of sticks with you, no?
Because it's confusing, and it's not exactly like abuse in any way. It's not abuse, I would say. It's neglect. Um,
But aren't you like also like just stuffing all this stuff inside? Like, aren't you just penting up all this stuff
oh yeah.
inside? And
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And it just comes out
it's
in
like
different ways.
you're gonna act on it. You're gonna act on it at some other point, like in some
Yeah,
subconscious way or something.
I think so. I think it definitely takes a toll. I think like sexually, you probably act it out,
That's a funny thing, because sex is a safe space, because there's pleasure involved, right? Just get rid of all this fucking shit.
but there's shame too.
But the shame that comes afterwards of knowing that you kind of just purged yourself emotionally.
Uh, I think, or while you're in the act too, sometimes there could be shame.
Do you think shame becomes a thing you need to purge?
Oh man, shame is the thing that takes me out of it, and then sex becomes this chore that I don't want to be in.
Is that because you don't know how far you can push it? Like, I'm trying, because I've been trying to dabble in this tantric stuff, and I feel like I don't, I don't know enough about it. I haven't done my own research, but in the few guidelines and exercises that I've been given, it's like, well, this is what I do in my own head, in my own fucking crazy. I'm just gonna figure it out for myself. Head, I go, oh, it's probably like rewriting memories with MDMA, or like this kind of like MDMA therapy you hear about, or mushroom therapy, just under a different state of mind. You rewire the thing that's bothering you, and
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, you're using sex to like heal, to heal, or the energy to heal, or whatever, right? Ah, damn it, you're cutting out. Damn it. You are cutting out. You're cutting out.
having to hurt
You're cutting out.
something else or someone.
You're back.
How about now?
You're back. Okay. Yeah, you're back now.
I don't know when it cut out. So like I'll try these weird things and it's kind of to get over a certain shame or embarrassment. Like if I notice the girl's like closing her eyes a lot, and I'm wondering like, oh, is she having to go somewhere else with her fantasy to like
Hmm.
to maximize arousal
Yeah.
here? Is her
Yeah.
mind not
Yeah.
in the game?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Where you need to go. Just imagine where you need to imagine.
Ah.
You're allowed.
Oh, you cut out the last
Like
30 seconds. What did
like
you say?
dude, fucking. Because I feel like I've been there as well, you know, with all the porn and shit you watch, and sometimes I'm like, oh fuck, I could be harder. Let me start imagining some porn, or like,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder how I feel if I was fucking this girl. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, she enjoyed that. She enjoyed me thinking about that other thing. Like, oh, I got harder. And I'll just be like, oh, God, wouldn't be so bad if I knew that she didn't care that I was doing this. And then I kind of felt like if I could tell her and then be allowed, then maybe I wouldn't care to do it, you know? Then it'd be like, oh, the shame is gone. Now I can connect with you more.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah, 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 yeah. But you know what happens to me is like
wonder
when I
about,
try to picture somebody else
yeah.
or like porn that I've watched, then I get that shame. This is like, oh, this is man, you are really a porn addict. If this is what you need,
Oh,
bro, you're in the middle
fuck.
of it.
Yeah.
This is the actual thing you're doing now, and now you need to
Yeah.
picture. And I'm like, and it's so confusing, and I'm like, I want this to end. Why can't this is like this is the one thing that you were supposed to want, but like it's a chore now. It's this thing that I don't want to be in. It's this shame-inducing thing, and then it attacks like my manhood. It's like, oh, who are you? You're not even a real man, man. Ugh, it's awful. I hate it. I hate it. It's so confusing. Everything is so. But you know what's funny?
Do you think that's time out to go? Yeah.
Uh, uh I I had the shroom trip where I had this like image of like, oh, you think you're always guilty. You have a guilty conscience. I was like, yeah.
Mm.
And it showed me this like rubbery thing full of soap that it like flipped inside out, and like it showed me this is how clean you are. You're clean. Why do you feel this way? You're
Whoa.
clean, and there was so much soap around it, like, and I always felt like I was like a dirty. It felt like I suppose the imagination in my head, this image, it was like this like dirty like rubbery slipper. Yeah, it was like a Croc. You know those Crocs, the material for Crocs is like the shoe. I felt like it was like a dirty shoe, and then like but you can like flip it. It's so like malleable when you wash it, and it felt like it showed me this image of like flipping inside out, and it showed me this. You're clean, man. Why do you feel this way? You're a clean person. You're
That's a
clean.
beautiful message, man.
And it felt good. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I don't have to
I,
feel this because I always felt like, oh, maybe I did something. Did I do something? Am I like some sort of like am I a bad person because
dude,
of
I
thoughts
I
that I
get that
have
all
in
the
my
fucking
brain?
time. And you know what? I feel like women don't feel as guilty about things as men as like a lot of guys do.
Yeah.
I remember one of my moments, like I guess similar to your message from the shrooms, and it sticks in my head, is so I have this friend who's really into me, and so for a long time I wasn't sure about her, like we'd kind of done stuff on and off, but then like ultimately I kept telling her like I don't think I want a relationship with you, and then we went to like a weekend retreat, and I met one of her friends and was really attracted to her and ended up getting with her and ended up going back to her place after the retreat and and she was asking me about my relationship to the first friend,
Hmm.
um assuming that we knew each other for ages because how we were acting at the place. And then I said, oh yeah, we've probably like known her for about a year. And then she said, oh, I thought you'd known each other for ages. Like, have you slept with her? And I said, uh, yeah, I have slept with her. It's like, oh, and you met me through her over this weekend. And I was like, yeah. And all of a sudden, in my head, I was like, oh fuck, she thinks I'm an asshole. And
Right.
I was like, oh fuck, yeah, I guess I'm an asshole, huh? So I guess like I don't know, you don't want to do anything, and I felt fucking guilty,
Yeah.
and I felt really fucking shameful because in my head this was the surface was going on in my head, like but I've told this other friend enough time, and I don't want to do it with her, and I've seen her get with other guys in front of me and never made me fucking feel anyway because I knew that was totally fair, that like I hope she could find happiness with some other guy who wants to be with her and knows he wants to be with her, and she should be allowed to, like I'm not gonna get in her way of that. And then she saw me like getting really bummed out and like me kind of wanting to leave, and then she was like, "Oh my God, you feel so responsible for things, huh?" And she just gave me this big hug, and I kind of like a man cry, and like she held that space for me, and it was so fucking weird. And I was like, in my head, I was like, "What? Like I don't need to feel? Are you telling me that I don't need to care?" Like, and it kind of in my head, I was wondering whether she didn't take enough responsibility for things. Like maybe she was an asshole and I should take her example. But since then, I feel like nah, she's just more accepting of what most people are like, and that was a real moment. That was like a real message that I like in my head. I just take responsibility for just about every fucking thing,
Mm.
and 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 it's no way to live. Kind of
Yeah.
like the squeaky clean thing. It's like, don't worry, dude, you're fucking pure. Like you haven't fucking murdered anyone, you haven't
Yeah.
raped
Yeah.
anyone. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
people complicated and imperfect. Yeah.
I think I'm also sway. I think we, or maybe just me, but it depends on who you are, person to person. But I get easily swayed by like what I see on social media and how women react to it. Like if you go to a specific feminist page, like they'll be like, "Oh, this is rape. Technically, this is all rape, or this is like sexual abuse or something." And I'm like, "Fuck, I think I've done all these things," and like, or if like. And like it's been hot in the moment, and it's been and people and women have reacted positively. Now were they lying, were they terrified of me? I never want to be like be that guy where like women are just
My
being nice
cousin
because
tolerated
um
something because they couldn't say no.
huh.
Like this woman tolerated it just because she didn't want to say no. She didn't
Yeah,
want
or yeah, in that moment because they're like scared or something because oh, well, if I react negatively to this man, he might like choke me and kill me or something. But so am I like so for me, I was like, fuck, am I mistaking all these like or misreading these signals? Like, what is going on? But then I'll have like this one time I went on a date with this like beautiful black lady in New York, and she was from the South, and she was telling me how like at the time like that catcalling video from New York City had come out where this like white lady put this hidden camera on her backpack, and she just like recorded all these men like catcalling her, and they were like, oh, this is just what women have to go through, and oh man, doesn't it suck to be a woman, and men are fucking disgusting predatory animals who like rape you or whatever, who don't take no for an answer. And then we were talking about it, and she was just like I think it's like I like it. I think that's how men have always like talked to me, and I think it's normal, and I kind of take it as a flattery and compliment and stuff like that. And I was like, oh damn, fuck. And then we had like a nuanced conversation about it, like where she was saying it all depends, and how you're doing it, and it's a form of courtship to me. And I was like, this is wild. You can't say this out loud at all because according to social media, that's like, what they'll do then? If she says this, oh, this is like a positive reinforcement, they'll just say like, oh, they'll feel bad for her, and they'll be like, oh, she's just like a misguided soul, she's
Man,
probably
I don't know. I think there's a cultural thing as well. I mean, I'm gonna sound
yeah,
totally
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
here, but I grew up,
totally,
I grew up in Antigua, and I was raised by black people, and like
yeah, yeah,
the amount of times I was like told when my whiteness was just making me not cool, especially
yeah,
around
yeah,
chicks and stuff, and I grew up in a country where it was totally like social protocol to when you want to talk to a girl to psst, psst, hey gal, and like if you did it and like was confident enough,
yeah.
that was already a good thing you did, like that
Yeah.
was already an impression you made. And I've told you this story before, but like I'll say again, like, and me as a white kid, I got tested. I got tested a lot
Right.
growing up in Antigua to see if I was a soft white kid. And I went to this all boys high school, because in Antigua, like the high schools that got the better results were like either all boys or all girls.
Right.
So they kind of were the better high schools to get into. And we finished school at like 1:30 in the afternoon, and then we'd go into what we call town, the commercial center. And the girls' high school finished at 1:30 as well, so we kind of all like finish and be like hanging out linemen, like getting soda, whatever the hell we did at 13, 14 in town, getting KFC. And I remember this group of three girls just chilling on like little alley,
Yeah.
and I was walking past, and then all of a sudden one of them, psst, hey, white boy, and like obviously she's talking to me, right? And
Yeah.
so I look up, and I go over, 'cause still I know my street cred's on the line.
Yeah.
I'm being
Yeah.
tested again. I
Yeah.
can't break a sweat, so I just fucking like cool as a cucumber. Walk to these girls, she'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah, what's up? And she looks at me, she like instantly she looks me up and down.
Yeah.
You don't always want to try white meat. First fucking thing she says to me, I always want to try white meat.
White meat.
And
Yeah.
I look and like I gotta stay unfazed.
Yeah.
And I look back and be like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
so here's a chance. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And they just giggled and like ran off.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, walked away, like, like, fucking handle that one. That was close call.
Dude, but when black women hit on you, it's totally different. Worked this one job once. I was for a dishwasher job, but I remember just walking into the place and there was this like black woman. She was like hot, but like in a very intimidating way. Like when black women are hot, or when any woman's like super hot, like she had like a fat ass that was like, and she wore like really tight clothes, and she was not fat, but she was just like super curvaceous, and she was just like looked at me, and I guess she found me very like a good looking person, and she's just like very overtly very vocal about it, like, damn, who is this, like, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, uh and I just like, hello, and I just like walked away. And then later on, like, I remember, I think she was not impressed. She thought she was a a waitress, and she thought I was going to be a waiter. But I was like a like I was working in the dish pit, and then she completely just like did not give me any time of day. Maybe it was like a status thing or whatever. But then I was just thinking, man, like, how should I should have reacted so much better. You never get like a attractive girl like hitting on you, and then when it does happen, I was just like a deer in the headlights. It's like, I don't. It's like walked. I was like, God damn it, it doesn't get easier than that.
Yeah. Yeah. But what does that, man? What makes them so comfortable with their sexuality? Like, like you can get it. Like, oh yeah, I want that. Like, you can get it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna let him know because I want that. Why do other people make it such a fucking game? Like, I don't know what does that. What kind of is that female empowerment, or is that make it too easy? I feel like it's female empowerment. Like, there's if sex is fun and nice and like and ultimately you're gonna know what you want, and what you want has substance. So why not take a chance? Because you're like in control of yourself. You're like self-possessed. I feel like there's a kind of power to that, and it's funny you mentioned, like, I feel like I've gotten more from black women as well. Like, I remember going to the school, and it wasn't as overt, but like I was in the lunchroom during my break, and there's just one, and she's quite attractive, really attractive, even. Um, Black lady, Caribbean descent, and so we had stuff to talk about, and very quickly she's saying, like, asking me like if I'm on Tinder, and like I should be, because I would be getting so, so much
Right.
positive response. I'm like, whoa, that got there quickly. She's
Yeah,
like,
like
yeah, with a
imagine you
mix like
saying,
you, and then and I was just like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
The other way
Slow
around
down, girl.
would
Yeah, I
be
see.
like workplace harassment. Like the other way around would be uh
Exactly.
imagine telling a girl, "Oh man, girl, man, you're so hot. You should be on Tinder. I bet you get like a lot of matches because you're so hot." Imagine just saying those words, man. Holy shit.
Fucking lose your job right away. Yeah.
Totally. Ah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying out there. But maybe,
I don't know. Like, there's some guys who can gauge shit. Apparently, you know.
what, some guys are what? Some guys
But
engage, you
maybe
said?
there's that. Maybe there's that girl whom like she would appreciate the ballsiness of a move like that in the
Yeah,
lunchroom.
yeah.
But you gotta know. You gotta know. Like my cousin has a friend. Is one of his best friends when he was living in the States, and he was telling me like this guy wanted like he's like my cousin's like 6'2", 3. He's jacked. He's handsome.
Yeah.
He's like mixed Portuguese, so
Mhm.
he's got nice tan skin.
Yeah.
But he's really like the kind of guy who needs to be impressed by the girl to like really get into it. He needs to like feel like he can trust her, but also like she's got substance to her personality, like that she's smart and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And his friend is just kind of always trying to convince him like, man, you could be killing it, and he's telling me all the time he's playing basketball with his friend, and he wants to show him like how easy it is if you know how to read the girl. And he sees this girl walking by, and I think he described her as like Latina, kind of very
Yeah.
well manicured and stuff,
Yeah.
and dressed to the nines. And he's like, watch this. And he takes the basketball and he just wails it in her direction, like
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
like at her in a
Yeah.
sense. And then when she doesn't respond to it, he yells. He's like, "So what? You can't fucking throw back our basketball? You're too good for that?"
Yeah.
And, and then she like her ears spiked, and he got her attention, and he went and started talking to her and got her number. But he
Damn.
knew that he had to like fucking really shake this girl's like.
That's so funny. It's like, it actually doesn't matter the first move or what you say. If you're in the right mind space and you just do anything ridiculous, as long as you have their attention, that's all you need, and then you can go from there. So
You work from there, yeah.
when you overthink, I'm a classic overthinker. So when I overthink things, and I'm like, throwing a basketball would not be my first five things to do. Like, but that is like he broke that like normalcy barrier by just like doing something crazy. It's like this. It's what is it? It's like some sort of theatrical move almost to get your attention.
Yeah, and she's
And then
gonna
once
notice more of that than what he's saying or
because
whatever,
then
right?
she forgets it doesn't matter what you it's like a sales move. I feel like when people do
Yeah,
sales, it's like to get new contacts or whatever. It's you do have to do something to grab their attention, and then once you have it, they forget like why, but now you find yourself in a conversation with them. That's dope. I have a question. So is it
yeah.
hotter what's hotter? Maybe you can make this like a clip or something if you want to put out. Is it hotter if a white woman hits on you or if a black woman hits on you? You there?
Oh
Ah, man.
man, it's fucking up your
Let me say that
crowd.
again if it's
You're
not
back.
recording. What's hotter? If is it a if a white woman hits on you or if a black woman hits on you?
Black
You're
woman,
walking down the
definitely.
street,
Dude,
you
definitely black and Latino, man. My favorite. I'm just going through my mind. Like even if she was white, if it was hot, she grew up in South America at some point or something, you know?
why is what how would they be different though?
No, but white's not always the same, man. Sometimes some European is sexy.
Yeah, like some
Like I've
like
had
French
Italian. Oh,
or like
yeah,
Italian. Okay. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. Well, but then I have I have a rose-colored like lens to this because a lot of these women that I'm speaking of, it's like they're tourists in Antigua, and so I'm some kind of like exotic potential fuckboy to them.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, it
Right,
doesn't matter
right.
what my job is, doesn't matter what the fuck. Like, oh, he speaks French. He's like relatable to me,
Right.
sort of, because he's white, but he's Caribbean at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, he's foreign, but yet not too foreign. Like, oh my
Mm,
god.
damn. So,
I had a
so
friend in
is it a
acting school.
tie or but who or is
But I
it
guess
like
outside, like I guess so, like when I'm living in Antigua,
yeah,
it's kind of different as well because the white girls who are living there, they're kind of Caribbean, they got Caribbean
yeah,
culture as well. But
yeah,
like
yeah.
when I would be out and like some black girl that didn't know and like because again, I'm still like an exotic. I'm white meat, you know, like an
Yeah.
exotic flavor. And they realized like I could dance or something. Always the black girl would hit on me so hot
Oh,
because she'd
yeah.
kind of like really emphasize how in her body she is and how much she knows her curves. And
Mm.
like in a way that I think like white girls don't grow up naturally like that. There's too much shame
Yeah, yeah,
around in white
yeah.
culture.
Interesting. Right.
Yeah. But also like Latina girls. I remember going on a date with this chick who was well, she was half Venezuelan, half Scottish, but like she looked more Latina, like mixed race. And I remember showing up for the first date, someone I met on Tinder, and she was like drunk. I hope well if she hears this, she'll know who I'm talking about. She was like it was like a 9 o'clock date on a Sunday,
Yeah.
and she was so drunk when she before like as she met me that that like she would ask me a bunch of questions like, so your name is Pierre, does that mean you speak French? And she would sound like that, but anyway, and I'd say yeah, and then like half an hour later she would ask me again. She'd be like, so your name's Pierre, does that mean you speak French? And I'm like, oh fuck. No matter what we talk about, she's not gonna remember it half an hour later, and it just
Oh, it's
kind of
so
that
funny.
over
She keeps
and over again.
she keeps asking you the same question over and over
Yeah,
again because she
because she's
forgets.
so drunk. Like
Ah.
she's drunk before even the date started, and she's telling me like, I went for some drinks with some friends at the sundown, and then I remember like, oh fuck, I'm late for the date, so I saw a scooter passing by, and I asked him if he could give me a ride. So hitch a ride here on the scooter, and I'm sorry that I'm late, but that was faster than I would have been. And the other thing was like, she clocked me, and maybe this was because she was drunk, but I chalk it down to the Latina kind of like fuego, you know.
Yeah.
She saw me, and I guess she liked what she saw, and she just like I just saw her demeanor change, like, hmm.
Mm.
And she
Mm.
came, and the first thing she did was just kind of like hook my arm and start like pulling me along with her. And she smelled nice of perfume and
Whoa.
she fucking looked good. And she was
Yeah.
like, "Hola, papi," and I was
Right.
like, "Holy!" Like instantly, I was like,
Damn.
"This is a good day."
That's dope.
Like
Yeah.
I was charming instantly because she was just like,
Well, she was into it, into you
yeah,
already. Yeah.
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 She broke the ice. I didn't have to
That's
break the ice.
great.
I didn't have to
That's
earn it. She knew at least she was gonna fuck me,
the
and
pressure is off. The pressure is off then once,
yeah.
because once you're in, it's like you can just say anything. Not anything, but you
But
can.
I feel the thing is like she saw something that she was at least it was gonna be easy for me to fuck her, but then like the difference maker would be am I actually interesting on top of that, you know? So she had the confidence to be like, oh well he's hot, so I'll
Mm,
give him that much of a chance
yeah.
instead of like, oh he's hot, like he's gonna know he probably has all the women in the world throw themselves at him, so I can't seem too easy and that'll make him myself more interesting. It's like, oh
Right.
fuck off.
I hate when when you
Not
play.
original. Like
Uh,
everyone does that.
Everyone does that. It's all insecurities and people play. I'm sure dudes do that too. I mean, I do that too. Like, I'll go straight to self-deprecating humor often more than I should, and that's kind of a turn. Now I understand it's more of a turn off than sometimes, depending on if you do it too much.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a
uh,
balance. Like if you
there's a
show
balance.
real cockiness and then you show you can do that, it's kind of a turn on. But
Yeah.
if it's from the get go when she's trying to like find out interesting stuff about you and you're just self-deprecating
Yeah,
and
it
it's not
doesn't
like a
work.
game.
And I think it's cultural too. Like certain cultures are more open to the self-deprecating. I think British women really go for the self-deprecating. They like it. They find it funny. They think
Yeah.
it's a sign of intelligence probably. But also British humor is a lot of like self-deprecating humor. But I think if you're like a Latin person, if you're talking to a Latin girl, I don't think there's any self-deprecating humor there as much.
They're like,
Uh,
how am I gonna see you as Poppy?
yeah, it's like why are you shitting on yourself? It's so
Eh.
disgusting. Yeah, I can totally see that. Um, for me, I think who's more flattering if a white girl hits on you or a black girl hits on you. I would say either. All first of all, getting hit on is flattering on its own. Uh, but I would think that the way black if here's the thing. I'm just thinking of it in like a math perspective. Like you're a black woman, you could have like the biggest dicks, but here you are trying to hit on this Indian dude who's like nebbishy looking, is a bit nerdy, not exact, doesn't have the muscles or the dick, but you still would do it. And I'm like, oh, this feels amazing. Like you would still choose, knowing well that I don't have 12 inches in my pants, on soft, that you would still go. That's really hot. That I would
Yeah,
say.
I've been told by girls, but you can never know what a girl's telling you to like make you feel better about yourself. I've been told by girls that like sometimes the huge penises is hard to get them. It's hard to get them erect.
That's a conspiracy theory. They tell you to make you feel good. I
Okay.
want to say, but I'm sure there must be a tipping point as to like how like like tits. They take tits for example. I'm not a two if it's they are natural and they're like two like if they're like size Fs or whatever. I don't not for me. Like solid D, like a double D is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. I think
Dude,
it's
I'm even
dick.
like nice perky B, C.
B's are fine too, by
I
the
just
way.
like
Yeah.
this. I like this well sculpted, man. It's
Yeah.
like a work of art.
Symmetry is more important than
Those popping nipples.
yeah. I'm grateful for all, but also symmetry. Yeah, this
Love your breast women. Love
yeah.
them no matter what they look
I
like.
think it's the
Love
same
your
with
breasts.
dicks. I think the way we have the philosophy for tit size is the dick size.
Mm.
I think it's for them,
Just
like
don't
as
be
long as it's
micro.
like not too big, not too small. And it's like I think thickness is important than length.
Yeah.
I would rather have a thick dick than a lengthy, like a rope dick.
I've
Um,
heard I've been told this by a lot of girls, even without me being a factor in the conversation. Just have them say like, to be honest, like a medium thick dick way like anytime over a big
yeah,
thin dick.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. But I'm sure there's like outliers
Imagine
that
how
just like
cheated you must feel if you had a big dick but it was thin.
what?
Imagine how cheated you must feel if you had like a
Big,
long
yeah.
ass schlong
That's
but
the
it
thing
was
about
thin.
dick size, bro. Like it's not like tit size where you can put fake tits in at least and like you look good in like a shirt or whatever. And
Yeah.
now with the technology, like you can't even tell what's a fake tit, what's a real tit.
Oh my God, yeah.
But there's no such thing for dick size yet. Like there's no like if you are fucked, if you have like a rope dick or if you have like a tiny dick, man.
Do you think it's coming? Do you think like
Yeah.
nobody cares about those guys' plights?
Nah, nah. Well, right now no one cares because guys are indispensable. And also like, you can like get as if you get say you have a tiny dick that if that motivates you to make money, then all of a sudden you become attractive to them because they don't see your attraction as just physical. Like you could get like Harvey Weinstein has like I think he has like a no dick or like his dick probably like that's what they say. But like
That's what they
he's
say.
but like that's what but like if you see his
So that's
wife,
how a
it's like
monster gets
his
created.
wife is like super super hot. Like she's beautiful. And the only reason she'd be with like a monster like him, the way he just looks is because of his power and his money. So I think it's different for men, but I think there's going to come technology where once these tiny dick dudes get schlongs, then I don't know what's going to happen.
They're
It's
gonna take over because they already have like the drive to get like
yeah,
to be able to afford
you
the
know,
prosthetics schlong or whatever it
yeah,
is, the
yeah.
dick extension.
Could happen. I don't know. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of in term like how they were like tits that in the tit job community like how initially it was just like these like wonky tits pointing different ways and then there's like balloons that were like just not like real tits but like now they can suck the fat out of your thighs and like stick them in your
Oh
tits
my
or
God,
whatever
it's
make
so
it seem
weird.
like I don't know
Natural human flesh,
uh
natural human fat, ass
yeah,
fat.
actually, yeah, it feels like so natural to you. I feel like I don't know. Once they do that with dicks, it could give people more confidence. I feel like, but you know what? That's going to be empty because as soon as they figure the size
Dick's
thing out,
complicated though, dude. It's all the sensitive skin and stuff. What do you do about that? It's all like
they'll
a
figure
special
it
kind
out.
of muscle and
With trans people, they're trying
vasculatory
to figure
system.
that dick out. With the trans people, they figure it out.
The trans community is advancing science.
Dude, they're advancing science. Totally. Yeah, yeah. Um.
Yeah.
Uh.
Oh man, do you think
So
we're preparing for like the future? Like in certain sci-fi novels that I'm reading, like people can like they've figured microbiology and nanotechnology so much that like little robots are keeping us alive, like in our bodies, like in body
yeah.
enhancements, till we're like 500 years old. But also like it's very common for someone to like live 100 years as a woman and then 100 years as a man because
Right.
they can just swap over and be like,
Oh
well, if I'm
man.
living that long, why the
That's
fuck
when you'll
not?
figure out that you'll still feel empty. Imagine like getting all that stuff. You're 150 years old. Your DNA is just constantly like replicating itself properly, so you still look like you're 25, but you're 150. You have the perfect tits, perfect ass, or perfect dick. You have the abs. You have the body, and you still feel empty. You still feel like fuck. I
You
still
think
feel like
without aging, you won't appreciate things?
you might initially, but I think your emptiness feeling or that feeling of like Oh, maybe. Oh, you know how we
Like
have
I'm
that
young
feeling
and I
of
could
like, if
fuck like
only I
I'm
had
young
this,
forever.
or
Like
if
I can
only I
do it for
had
200
that.
years now.
Huh?